Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our studio. I am Socheta, your host for today's episode, and I am honestly feeling so much gratitude right now as I look across the table at my guest. Today, we are exploring a topic that is deeply personal to every single human being: how we can take the raw, often overwhelming experience of pain and transform it into a foundation for success.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Sachata. It is truly an honor to be here. You know, when we talk about pain, most people's first instinct is to run away from it, to hide it under the rug, or to pretend it doesn't exist. But there is a hidden power in those wounds if we are brave enough to look at them.
That is such a powerful way to start, Mr. Saroon. Brave enough to look at them. I think many of us feel that pain is a sign of weakness or a sign that we failed somehow. Can you help us understand why we should view it differently?
Absolutely. Think of pain as a form of energy. When a blacksmith wants to shape steel, he doesn't use cold water. He uses intense heat. That heat is painful to the metal in a metaphorical sense, but it is the only way the metal becomes flexible enough to be molded into a sword or tool. Without that fire in our lives, we often remain static and unformed.
That is such a powerful analogy. The fire of life. But for someone listening right now who is in the middle of that fire, maybe they lost a job or they are dealing with a heartbreak, it doesn't feel like they are being shaped. It just feels like they are burning. How do they make that shift?
I hear you, and I want to acknowledge that feeling. It is heavy. The first step is what I call conscious acceptance. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, which places you in the role of a victim, try asking, what is this teaching me? It sounds simple, almost cliche, but that shift in language changes your brain's chemistry from fear to curiosity.
Intrigued. Curiosity instead of fear. That sounds like a radical shift in perspective. I remember a time in my own life where I felt like everything was falling apart, and I was so focused on the why that I couldn't see the how to get out. It felt like being stuck in a dark room with no doors.
Precisely. And in that dark room, Socheta, your eyes eventually adjust. You start to see things you never noticed in the bright light of easy success. You see your own resilience. You see who your true friends are. You see the cracks in your old way of thinking that needed to break so something better could be built in its place.
You're talking about post-traumatic growth, aren't you? This idea that we can actually end up better than we were before the incident happened. It's not just about getting back to normal, but about evolving into a version 2.0 of ourselves.
Exactly. It is the alchemy of the soul. But let's be clear, this doesn't happen by accident. You have to be an active participant in your own healing. You have to take that pain and say, I will not let this be for nothing. I will use this as the fuel for my next marathon, my next business venture, or my next relationship.
So it's about ownership. It's about taking the steering wheel even when the car is damaged. I want to talk about the success part of our topic. How does this emotional work translate into professional or life success? How does a broken heart lead to a successful career?
Authoritatively, success at its core requires high levels of emotional intelligence and grit. Pain is the ultimate teacher of both. When you have survived something difficult, your fear threshold changes. You are no longer afraid of a no from a client because you've survived a no from life. You become more daring, more empathetic with your team, and more focused on what actually matters.
So that makes so much sense. It gives you a sort of superpower of perspective. You realize that the things that used to stress you out are actually quite small in the grand scheme of things. I used to worry about every little email, but after a major life setback, I realized those emails don't define my worth.
That is the freedom. Once you lose what you thought you couldn't live without, and you realize you are still standing, you become dangerous in the best way possible. You become unstoppable because the threat of failure has lost its sting. You've already been through the worst, and you made it.
So, Saroon, I want to ask you something personal. Was there a specific moment in your life where you felt the most pain, and how did that become your success?
Yes. Many years ago, I lost a business I had spent a decade building. I lost my savings, my reputation in the industry, and for a while I lost my sense of identity. I spent months in a very dark place. But in that silence, I realized I had been building for the wrong reasons, for ego, not for impact. That pain forced me to rebuild a new company based on service and genuine connection. That company became 10 times more successful than the first one ever could have been.
Wow. So the failure was actually a course correction. It was life telling you that you were on the wrong path, even if it felt like the path was being cut off. That is so inspiring to hear. I think many of our listeners are in that dark place right now, wondering if there is a new company or a new life waiting for them.
There is. I promise you there is. But you must stop looking back at the closed door with regret. Turn around. There is a whole hallway of possibilities that you are ignoring because you are mourning a door that was locked for a reason. Success is not the absence of pain. It is the mastery of it.
Mastery. That is the word I'm going to take away from today. As we wrap up this incredible conversation, what is one practical step someone can take today, right now, to start turning their pain into their success?
Earnestly. Write it down. Take a piece of paper and write down the hardest thing you are going through. Then right next to it write, "Because of this, I will become," and fill in the blank. Will you become more patient, more ambitious, more kind? Decide what the profit of your pain will be. Don't let the universe take from you without taking something back in the form of growth.
I love that, the profit of your pain. That is such a high-quality takeaway. Mr. Saroon, thank you so much for your wisdom and your vulnerability today. This has been a truly transformative session.
Thank you, Sucheta. To everyone listening, remember, your scars are not just reminders of where you were hurt. They are evidence that you healed. Use them well.
What a perfect note to end on. Thank you all for tuning in to The Heart of Success. We hope this conversation helps you find the light in your own journey. Until next time, keep growing, keep striving, and remember, your greatest triumph might be just on the other side of your hardest day. Goodbye for now.